because the changes that are now needed will require participation and leadership from all parts of civilization. Since one of the principal ways we decide what is valuable and what is not, what we should do and what we should not do, is within the marketplace, it is critically important that we get the rules of the marketplace correct, and that the signals we derive from the marketplace are ones that accurately reflect human values, so that we can make decisions both in the political realm and in the business realm that will allow us to live our lives in ways that are in keeping with what we know to be right. And there is a very simple test of what is right where the climate is concerned. If the next generation, not too many years from now, looks back at this year of 2009 and sees around them the worsening catastrophes that were foretold if the world did not act, if they then look back at us and ask, what were they thinking? Why did they sit on their hands? Why did they choose not to take action to avoid the horrendous catastrophe that the scientific community spelled out for them and told them would happen if they did not act? If instead the next generation looks back and sees a successful meeting in Copenhagen in December of 2009 that leads to a dramatic change in our course with reductions in the greenhouse gas pollution, if they see around them in their world, not too long from now, millions of new, good, green jobs and a spirit of renewal throughout this world, a sense of optimism and hope, a feeling that yes, we can deal with the problems that are inevitable, but we now have charted a course toward a bright future. If they look back with gratitude, then that will mean we have done our job well. But there is not much time. We have to do it this year. Not next year, this year. The risk of failure would be a risk that the political cohesion that has brought us this far would begin to fray. And of course the clock is ticking because Mother Nature does not do bailouts. We have already seen increasing droughts in Tim Flannery's home nation of Australia, in my home nation as well, in many places. As predicted, we have seen the largest and most destructive fires in memory on almost every continent. We have seen the stronger storms predicted. We've seen the bigger downpours and record flooding as predicted. We've seen the movement of tropical diseases away from the poles toward temperate zones where the populations have not learned over the years how to accustom themselves to survive these diseases. We have seen a variety of other consequences that are a taste of what would come if we did not act. But there is good news, because the world's business community is beginning to respond, and the world's leaders are beginning to respond as well. Some of you have been at other international meetings over the last several years, including the meeting last year at Poznan and at Bali the year before. And I heard often at those meetings, where is the United States? When will the United States act? Well, I can tell you that we have had a change in the United States. Our policies are beginning to look very different from the ones that we had been following. President Barack Obama, within 1 month of becoming president, passed a green stimulus bill that constituted the largest renewable energy bill in the history of my nation. Just last week, President Obama announced a dramatic change in truck and automobile mileage standards, a very large source of emissions in the United States. And as Eric mentioned earlier, the key committee of the United States House of Representatives passed legislation out of committee that will soon be considered on the floor of the House of Representatives and then the Senate of the United States that would lead to a reduction in global warming pollution below the 1990 baseline. And when the other reductions in that bill are taken into account, significantly below. The bill, in my view, needs improvement and strengthening. But it is moving forward. And my prediction is that it will pass and will become law. Every nation has a leadership role to play. And every business has a leadership role to play. But one of the messages from the business community that I hear at this gathering is that it is very difficult to ask businesses to play a role that only governments can play. Businesses can lead in their sectors, but if the rules of the road are not adjusted to account for the consequences of unrestrained pollution, then the risk is that some businesses offering leadership would be undercut by the least responsible actors in their business sector. The business signals that we get from the way the economy is measured today, as I said before, they are misleading. After that Great Depression of the 1930s, the distinguished economist John Maynard Keynes and several of his colleagues sought to give political leaders better economic tools so they could avoid another Great Depression. They focused on accurate measures of production, and what we refer to as GDP came out of the rules for the economy, the national accounts as they were called, that were devised during the interwar period. Lord Keynes never intended GDP to be used as a general measure of whether an economy was moving in the right direction or the wrong direction. It was intended only as a measure of production. But that measure has become the focal point for whether economic policies are working well for business or working badly for business.